Cute, furry, and smart, Furby was nothing like the world had ever seen. But how is the toy doing today? How has it changed over the years? And why do some governments think Furby is a spy? In the late 1990s, inventors Caleb Chung and Dave Hampton had the idea of creating a toy that resembled both a hamster and an owl. According to Hampton, the idea for what would eventually become the Furby came to him after seeing a Tamagotchi at a toy fair. The first Furby prototype was made using a tennis ball and a single motor. Underneath its fur was a speaker for it to speak Furbish, the official language spoken by all Furbies. It took Hampton and Chung 9 months to come up with the concept and design, and another 9 months to finish creating it. Their first 2 attempts to sell their design to a major toy manufacturer were unsuccessful. They knew they were going to need some help finding a buyer, so the 2 inventors worked with Richard C. Levy, a toy and game inventor, to help them sell the Furby. Levy was able to sell the rights to Tiger Electronics. This deal set the stage for Furby to make its official debut at the American International Toy Fair in 1998. When the Furby was first released, it retailed for the price of $35 US. It was advertised using the slogan, "The more you play with me, the more I do. I will keep amazing you." The toy was released to the public just in time for the holiday season, and it was so popular that supply struggled to meet demand. Knowing just how much people wanted to get their hands on this new toy, some took to reselling the Furby for much more than the retail price. We're talking hundreds of dollars. Some customers were so desperate that people even fought to get their hands on a Furby, whether the toy was for themselves or their kids. Within 3 years of the Furby's launch, more than 40 million Furbies were sold. To put things into perspective, that's more than 4 times the entire current population of New York City. The kids of today who have grown up with smartphones, smart cars, and smart TVs are probably wondering what's so special about a Furby. An electronic toy like Furby is probably not going to impress them. But you have to remember that the Furby was released during a much different time. People back then had much different reactions. When other toys were static, Furby stood out because of its unique ability to learn. Of course, Furbies weren't alive, but they were meant to feel almost like a living, breathing pet. Furbies spoke to their owners and reacted to touch. Over time, they would learn and even begin to speak English. Plus, if you had more than one Furby or knew someone else who had one, you could watch the Furbies interact with each other. How cool is that? People love interactivity, and the Furby toys gave people exactly what they wanted. Why spend your time and money on a toy that stood there motionless when you could get a much more exciting toy? Furby was like the physical equivalent of the digital Tamagotchi. First released in 1998, the original Furby knew a total of 9 languages. The 9 languages were English, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, German, Japanese, Swedish, and Greek. If you pet a Furby whenever it said certain pre-programmed words, the Furby could possibly say them more often. This gave rise to fears that Furbies could be used as a spying device, as people mistakenly believed Furbies would repeat any word they heard. Found to be too much of a security risk, Furbies were banned from some government agencies. The National Security Agency, the Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and the Pentagon were among those who banned the toy from their premises. Much of their work is top secret, and that information could not fall into the wrong hands. And Furby was seen as a risk for doing just that. Due to the simplistic design, featured sensors, and low cost, Furby became a favorite toy for hackers. The circuit-bending community took Furbies apart and fiddled around with the inner components. Furbies could be used to make some new and very interesting sounds. One YouTuber even created a musical instrument that they called the Furby organ. A year after Furby launched, a new line called Furby Babies began hitting store shelves. Sure, they were called babies, but the Furby babies learned and spoke English faster than the original Furbies. Available in 24 different colors, the Furby babies were smaller, couldn't dance, and had higher-pitched voices. They also all had white eyelashes, but there were 6 different eye colors. Another variant of the Furby line was Furby Friends. These frequently involved collaborations outside of the Furby brand. There was E.T., Yoda from the Star Wars franchise, and Gizmo from Gremlins. There were even prototypes of Pikachu and Meowth from Pokémon, and Sully and Mike from Monsters, Inc., though these 4 Furby friends were never released for sale. Outside of the collabs, Tiger Electronics released another new line in the Furby Friends family known as Shelby. Shelby was released in 2001, a year when the Furby craze was beginning to die down. People had gotten so used to Furbies that the toys no longer had that new it factor. But Tiger did incorporate some new features with the Shelby. Like a real cat, they would purr when you pet them. Shelbies were also ticklish, and you could feed them by sticking a finger in their mouth. They knew when they were being held upside down, which caused them to say phrases such as "shiver me timbers." When interacting with other toys, Shelbies were able to tell regular Furbies apart from other Shelbies. With the launch of the Shelby came a new language, Shelbish, different from the Furbish in the previous toys. There was an updated design and some cool new features, but that didn't stop customers from eventually growing disinterested. Only a year after Shelby launched, the line and the entire Furby franchise was discontinued. In some stores, you could find Furbies marked down in price to as low as $5. For 3 years, all was quiet in Furbyland. Then, under the new ownership of Hasbro, the Furby brand was revived in 2005. The classic Furby was replaced by the new emotronic Furbies, which featured a more expressive face and a new voice recognition system. Sold at the retail price of $39.99, they were larger than ever, had an on-off switch, and could be ordered to instantly fall asleep. But not everything was an improvement. These Furbies knew 2 fewer languages, no longer supporting Greek or Swedish. They did not have motion sensors or light sensors, and they didn't react to loud sounds like the original Furby. At a lower cost of $19.99, you could instead get the emotronic Furby babies. Going with the baby theme, they had a more limited vocabulary, used baby phrases such as "me sleepy," and came with a little baby bottle. When going to sleep, this Furby baby would move its legs into sitting position and unfurl them after waking up. This line was primarily targeted at the European market. If you were in the US and wanted to get one, you had to order one online through the Hasbro Toy Shop website. These only lasted 1 year, but in 2006, there were also the emotronic Funky Furbies. Released in 3 different colors, the Funky Furbies were able to sing 3 short songs. They could dance along to your personal music and be taught new dances, too. Unfortunately, Furby sales weren't too great in the United States during 2005, so the Funky Furbies were only sold in Canada, Australia, Spain, and the UK. It seems the 2005 revival of Furby did not go as well as Hasbro had hoped. Furby was unable to enjoy the same success of the late 90s. Had people just simply moved on? There were now several other successful robotic furry animals. A popular favorite at the time was For Real Friends, another toy brand from Hasbro. For Real Friends had cuter animals and a much larger selection to choose from. You had your typical household pets, such as cats, rabbits, and dogs, but For Real Friends also had animals that kids could never have as pets, including tigers, unicorns, and bears. When Furby returned to the market, they returned to a different toy landscape. After only 2 years, the plug was pulled from the Furby brand once again in 2007. But a good toy never goes down without a fight. So the fall of 2012 saw another return of Furby, this time with black and white LCD eyes and a mobile app for iOS and Android. The new version supported 6 different personalities and would react when you pulled its tail. Gone was the on-off switch, which had been replaced by a reset button. If you left the Furby by itself, it would turn itself off after a minute of inactivity. Reception to this Furby was very positive. Upon release, some people went so far as to call it the best Furby ever. In early 2013, Hasbro released a variant called the Furby Party Rockers. They had different eyes from the other Furbies that were made using a transparent plastic. Rock them or talk to them, and you would see their eyes react by lighting up. Each party rocker lived up to their name because they loved to sing. At a retail price of $19.99, the party rockers were a nice alternative to the new Furby, but they did not have any moving parts. Later that year, Hasbro released another new generation of Furby, Furby Boom. There were new colors, they came with new personalities, and there was a new mobile app to coincide with its release. Hasbro used the marketing slogan of "A new generation is hatching." Hasbro then introduced the Furblings, and generally their fur patterns match those of Furby Booms. There was a special edition golden Furbling, however, which was highly sought after and did not have a Boom counterpart. Furblings came with codes people could enter into the Furby Boom app, unlocking virtual Furblings. For the 2014 season, Hasbro redesigned the Furby Boom with the Furby Boom Crystal series. The Boom's face, feet, and ears were redesigned, but their personalities and voices remained unchanged. Heading back into the world of collabs, Furby took inspiration from another Star Wars character. A few months before Star Wars returned to the big screen with Star Wars The Force Awakens, Hasbro released Furbaka, based on Chewbacca the Wookiee. Like the Furby Boom, Furbaka could hatch Furblings in the mobile app. Furbaka was one of the more expensive Furbies, retailing for $80. But this was a nice collectible for Star Wars fans. Furbaka could sing the Imperial March, imitate movie sound effects, and show graphics in his eyes that portrayed lightsabers, X-Wings, and Imperial Star Destroyers. As of right now, the last Furby to be produced was the Furby Connect, released in 2016. Upon release, it retailed for $100. Other than the new movements and more expressive eyes, the Furby Connect focused on connectivity with the mobile app. This was a time when more and more toys were trying to take advantage of app-enabled features. Furby Connect looked very different from previous Furby generations and had colorful LCD eyes surrounded by circular rings. Both the eyes and ears were larger, but the beaks had become smaller. If you moved the Furby Connect's antennae, it would glow different colors. With the Furby Connect World app, you could watch viral videos via Bluetooth, make your Furby use the bathroom, and feed it using the food cannon. While connected, your Furby Connect would learn new things every week. This included personality updates, new reactions to videos, and new songs and phrases. Unfortunately, the Furby Connect was canceled and Hasbro stopped supporting Furby Connect World in 2017. No more updates meant the app was left with various bugs and glitches. Fans were disappointed because the app didn't even last 2 years and there were still features that hadn't been released. You can still download the app right now, just don't expect it to be updated anytime soon. It's possible, and even likely, that Hasbro will never support the app again. So what's next for Furby? There hasn't been a new Furby in 5 years, but the Furby brand has already been revived several times, so don't count the toy out just yet. Hasbro has been focusing on their other properties, including Play-Doh, Beyblade, Disney Princess, Marvel, and Transformers. They also own the rights to a lot of board games such as Connect 4, Monopoly, and Operation. So they don't need Furby to be successful, but it's hard to see Furby not coming back sometime in the future. There are already people feeling nostalgic and ready to buy a new Furby. People don't know what they got until it's gone. Plus, Plus, there's a whole new generation that has yet to be introduced to the iconic toy. Who knows, maybe, just maybe, another Furby craze is in the cards. Thanks for watching. Got a Furby comment? Let us know, and go ahead and check out another great video.